Hey guys, it's M4J here and welcome back to Global Ventures here on Planet Coaster. This is Cra-Zee Taxi, this is me closing Cra-Zee Taxi, and this is me getting rid of the majority of the track from Cra-Zee Taxi. After the last episode I did some looking into the actual design of this ride, and I decided that I hadn't done a very good job. Basically, I want it to be based on Rattlesnake at Chessington. I said that in the last episode. I mean, that's just one example of the Wild Mouse variety coaster. So I want it to be based on that, but I also want it to have a uniqueness about it. Now, the uniqueness is at least one inversion, if not more. So we're going to try and fit those in and do this again. First thing we're going to do, this was fine, this little bit, but we're actually going to have a continuous slope along this entire section of track. So it's going to go like that, and then it's going to trim with the catwalk, and then we're going to block, and then we're going to come out of this, we're going to go around. I will start the test whilst I do this. So it was -2, wasn't it? Give or take. Might change it actually to -1. Yeah, that looks a bit too steep. Thing is, we don't want it to be noticeable. Not incredibly noticeable. We want it to be quite subtle. Right, round. Straighten this up. Lift this back up to -1. I wish it wouldn't do that. There must be a way of changing that actually. Maybe not. There must be a way of changing that somewhere. Maybe in the game settings. So it doesn't do this annoying thing. Right. Trim. Block. Continue. But I was thinking about making... Yeah, I'm going to make the corners a bit tighter as well, actually. Maybe 5. Whoops. 5. There we go. Bit like that. Which does mean we perhaps need to shorten the lift hill slightly. Not actually sure on that one. This back up to -1. You can see now it definitely runs smoother and at a good speed as well. Trim, block, like so. Now Rattlesnake does this 3 times, I think. Has 3 lots of trim before it goes into the long right-hander. I think we're going to do it a little bit more. We're also going to have this go like this. That should fit just over the top like so. How far away are we from the station at this point? Quite a way still. So I think at this point we're just going to do... Oops. the long right-hander here anyway. I think that'll work well. Gives us a bit of an area here, perhaps for a building of some kind. Right, at this point, this grows and also goes down more. Right, that. Shorten this right up. And do that. Right, there. And there. Okay, now we want the trim. Now this is where I messed up before. The brakes actually go before the turn, which I didn't notice before. So it actually goes like this, and then there's a turn. Again with a slight dip. Come on, there we go. -2, that should do it. And then it levels out a little bit. Straightens out, I should say. And then it goes sharply round again. And now we go into the big drop. Now I might actually bring this back a little bit more. Shorten this. And do... It needs to be bigger than that. Hang on. There we go. Now we straighten this out. Now we straighten this out. And then we shorten this. Like so. And then it goes up. Like that. Perfect. Right. Trim. Block. Curve. Like that. Straighten up. Like that. Curve again. Like that. Straighten up. And down. And we're going to go steep. Right the way to ground level like that. Into the loop. Which, let's do it like this actually, into the loop. Now do you want it to go left or right? I think this way. There you go, it goes over that much better now. And then up, like so. which I think from here it needs to go up a lot steeper. Like that. Shorten that. A little bit more. What height is it over here? 18, 16, 14. That looks fine. In fact, we need this to go down like that. Trim. Block. A bit like this. Right, and then this is where it gets slightly different again, because there's another break there. And then it goes back into a curve. And then does the little slalom. Which we're going to shorten right up. Just like that. Perfect. And then it goes into the bunny hops. Which I think actually we should increase the size of that. There we go. No, steeper than that. And then up again. Right, where are we? It's up there. Yeah, that looks much better now. That looks much better. And then down into the hop, which does need to be a little bit slower than that actually. I think the problem is that this is just a fraction too long. There we go. Now if we do that, and then do this. That's probably too big now. What other options have we got here, actually? Not a lot. Not a lot. We're not going to be able to fit a 0G roll in, which is quite annoying, because I actually wouldn't mind having one of them in. I think that look quite cool. Non-inverted. Definitely not going to be able to fit one of them in. Or a figure of 8. A helix, no. Overbank turn. Again, way too big. Why would you want it that big? That's just so big for a coaster of this size. You want to be building little coasters like this, really. I wish I could bank that up a bit more. Maybe I could if I did this. Yeah, there we go. Like that. And then over the top like that. And then level it out and lift it back up again. Like that. Hang on. Like that, and then like that. I think that'll work. So it goes 13, 10, and then I assume to 10 again. Now I just need to watch the video through. So it goes down, up and over the bunny hop, down, up, and then round. Okay. That was still too fast, I just saw it there. So we'll take out this. Or will we? I think if I make it short like that. And then do that. And then do this. And then do that, and then bring it up. Like this, maybe? I think. And then turn this a bit wider because we're going into a break. I'm hoping it's still got some speed at this point. Right, down to minus 1.8 roughly. There we go. Bring this right back in. We go trim. Block. Like that. In fact, we'll do this a little bit longer. Trim. Block. Round. Why can't I hear the car anymore? Oh, because it's back over there. Alright, come on game, speed up. I want to see how well this bit works. So it slaloms. Goes down, up into that bit. Down into the loop. That is looking a lot nicer now. The speed's a lot better as well. Rise up. Quick snap back to level. Round through the two lots of brakes. Into the little chicane. Down. Over. That looks a lot nicer as well. Up. Round into those brakes. Again looks a lot nicer. And then here we're going to have another steep drop. It takes you right down to the ground like that. Now I think this is probably going to be a really dumb idea. But I might be able to do that. Nah, that's a really dumb idea. I would like to have one more inversion of some kind. But I'm just not sure where. I mean, does this count? It doesn't really, does it? It's a 100-degree drop, but that doesn't count as an inversion. We're dropping, to show how different this is now, this is the pit where the loop was originally. You can see how much we've moved it over. Just by shifting a couple of things around. It's amazing, isn't it? What can we build then? Dive loop? I mean, just look how big that is. Well, actually, that could work. Do we want to do that? Do I want to do that? I could place it and see what happens. It is taller. Yeah, not a chance. I could do an inclined 45 degree or a 180 degree. If I could wrap that, like had that go through the loop, how cool would that be? Was it? Is it a roll? Did it count as a roll? Or was it non-inverted? I think it was. Did it come as a loop? I think it came as a loop. Yeah, it comes as a loop. How cool would that be if that fitted? I mean, that does fit, really, doesn't it? How does that not fit? It must be this bottom bit. I reckon it's this bottom section here. So I think if I do that instead. Okay, now it's on this side. Yeah, it's not going to work. Okay. Let's just go for this. Another big drop. Just watching over this again, making sure it's all smooth. I do love the way the supports stack on one another, or they move out of each other's way. I think that's really, really cool. I do like that. Right, so it's that. And then you level out. And then you go down like this, and you turn into a trim. Actually, hang on. Bring this back slightly. Like that. And then you turn into a trim. Or is it friction? It might be friction, actually. That's too steep for that. Okay, so it's that. And then it's that. And then it's that. And then you level out. And that's the right level. Now if I do this block section and then turn this, how far away are we? I think that's in line actually. Or is it? Oh, it's slightly off. I think it's too high is the problem. So I want to do that. Yeah, then here. Okay, this is what's going to happen. We're going to go this way. This is going to slowly slope up. Then we're going to go block, friction, trim. And then we're going to get rid of this bit, and we're going to do autocomplete. There we go. Coaster finished. So it's a lot smaller, it's a lot nimbler. Operations, 5 cars, yep. Might be able to rank it up to 6 actually. Oh yeah. Over here as well I need to swap that bit for tyre drive. There we go. Right, let's watch this. Loud noises coming from the old PC. I am going to go into a time-lapse soon where I theme all of this. It means I can switch my AC unit on. And also speed up the footage so it doesn't take an hour like last episode where it's just an hour of me dithering. That's never good. Here we go, climb up nice and quick. Down there. Through the first brake section. Now the slalom starts. It's probably my favourite bit on Rattlesnake actually, is going around these corners. Going around these corners and the big drop. Because it's the big drop itself is hidden. Even in the queue you don't really see it. You can hear it, but you can't see it. So it always catches you by surprise because you never remember just how tall it actually is. Plus the fact the coaster's built in the ground as well, so you don't really see just how high up you end up being. Right, so far so good. Big drop. Into the loop. And up again. We're going to hide that loop as well, just so it really catches you out. Right, bunny hop. Up, round. Into this brake. Round and down. Up. And perfect. I do need to change the strength of these brakes. So here, target speed is going to be 8, should we say. Target speed is also 8, deceleration rate is going to be up through the roof. And then this, brake target speed is going to be 5. Release speed is also going to be really slow, like 3. And then it'll slowly roll down into that bit. Okay. Let's just speed up time really quickly and see how this bit looks. So here it comes, up, over. Pretty good, I'd say. Pretty good. It'll be better when it doesn't have to stop. Let's just speed this up a little bit more. Do your thing, down and round, up, over the loop. I'm a big fan of these little Wild Mouse coasters. Just little coasters in general I'm a big fan of. I like the idea of being able to fit a lot into a small space. That's what Rattlesnake does as well. There's a lot of theming going on there. More than you think when you actually look at it. Yes, perfect. Right, naming. Cra-Zee. Oops. There, Cra-Zee Taxi. And we're going to start theming it. We're going to theme quite a lot of this area now. Again, we're going to leave this bit blank because I'm hoping there'll be an update soon where we can actually fill this in. We're also going to start building around the back of this area because there is going to be some stuff going on around the back as well. We are going to flatten out this bit of land right up to the coaster track. There we go. And then all the way along here. Like this. And like this. There we go. Right. So yeah, I'm going to go and start the time lapse. I will see you guys in just a second. I will do some commentary over the top of the time lapse, don't worry. So yeah, let's get into it. And we are in time-lapse mode, guys, and we're going to start theming and building the queue line of this ride. Now I'm going to start talking to you about the queue line a little bit. As I've said many times in the last couple of episodes, this ride is heavily inspired by Rattlesnake at Chesington. And if you go through the queue of Rattlesnake, maybe at the beginning of the queue you do see quite a lot of the ride. You see the little bunny hop section, and of course if you're standing outside the ride going into the queue you do see all of the switchbacks at the beginning. But if you actually go into the queue proper, you end up going through the building and the cave system. There isn't much of the ride that you can actually see, so it is still quite a surprise when you get on the ride itself and experience it. That is something that I wanted to replicate with the queue for this ride. Not so much making the queue tell a story, but having it be a way of hiding the ride from guests until they're actually on the coaster itself. So it's very windy. Originally I wanted it to go up and over the top of the little brake section there to join up with the main path, but you can see that was becoming slightly unfeasible because I tried to avoid stairs as much as possible in my parks. Access for all is something I'm a huge advocate of, a huge fan of. So I didn't particularly want it to have loads of stairs, be really difficult for access for everybody. I mean, I won't talk too much about that. It's not exactly. It should be a given. It shouldn't be something that has to be pointed out. It should be something that's a no-brainer. But unfortunately, even in today's society, that doesn't seem to be the case. But yeah, I'm not going to moan about that. I'm going to talk about other things. The inspirations for everything about this about this ride, really. So Rattlesnake was one big inspiration. Another big inspiration, which is a ride that I have seen a lot of, never actually ridden it, and even then it's been a long time since I last saw it in person. But Indiana Jones et le Temple de Péril at Disneyland Paris. I've probably butchered that pronunciation as well. I got an A star in my French speaking, believe it or not, and I don't think I've spoken a word of French since. So that tells you something. But that is a huge inspiration for me when building this ride. It is a classic example of how to do a small roller coaster properly. Indiana Jones, I will call it Temple of Peril from now on, was the first Disney roller coaster to feature an inversion. Up until 2004, I think it was, it had the highest height requirement of any Disney theme park attraction, and yet it's one of the smallest and, with respect, dinkiest roller coasters I think I've ever seen. It is tiny, built in a very small space within Adventureland of Disneyland Paris, and you know, what can you say about it? It's been designed to thrill, and that is exactly what I wanted to get out of Cra-Zee Taxi as well. I've missed the mark slightly. I would still say Indiana Jones is more thrilling, but that's kind of the point with what I'm trying to say here. It's a classic ride. It is an absolute classic. It will always be a classic. It was so well built, so well designed, and throughout 2 refurbishments they've actually rebuilt the majority of the ride but kept its roots, and that's really what's important here. So the original ride was opened in 1993, July 30th, 93, which I think is not long after the park opened, thinking about it. Originally, Disneyland Paris was going to have an Indiana Jones themed area, not just one ride. The problem with Disneyland Paris is a lot of these instances have started off as, oh, we're going to build a big themed land on this, and this, and then they had to scale it back slightly, and that's exactly what happened here. Space Mountain is another really good example of that as well. But what happened with Indiana Jones was, because of the financial problems that they had at Disneyland Paris, they had to scale the ideas right the way back. So instead of having the enhanced motion vehicle, the EMV ride that you have at all the other Disney parks, and instead of having a Jungle Cruise style ride, and then a minecart themed roller coaster, which is a homage to the famous minecart chase in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Again, something I haven't seen for a number of years now. But instead of all of that, they had to scale it right the way back. So they ended up designing a roller coaster that was then manufactured by Intamin. And if you're having a ride manufactured by Intamin, you know you're going to get your money's worth. And that's exactly what happened. So some key facts about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril. It's 59 feet high, which isn't that tall actually, compared to some roller coasters. 1,968 foot long, which isn't that important to be honest. 600 meters exactly, according to this. It reaches a top speed of 36 miles per hour. And the key that why I think it is a good inspiration for Cra-Zee Taxi is one inversion. which is the loop in the center of the ride. And when I say the center of the ride, I literally mean it's tucked right into the center of the ride. It does warn you before you go on the ride that it does contain an inversion, but I would say they've done a very, very good job of hiding that loop, which is exactly what you want in a roller coaster. You want some aspects of it to be hidden. You want them to be a surprise, and boy does that catch you by surprise. Unfortunately, it has been plagued by some technical problems. When I first went to Disneyland Paris back in 2000, which was just after they converted the ride to run backwards, which I'll talk a bit more about in a second, one of the cars stalled on the top of the loop. So basically it was hanging upside down. The media like to grab hold of stories like that and make it sound like it was more perilous than it actually was, which is quite ironic given the name of the ride. It is bad being left hanging upside down, but I can assure anybody watching this that they wouldn't just leave people there. They wouldn't just hope it comes down by itself. The second that the ride stops, they'll be finding a way to get you down as quickly and as safely as possible. And that's the key word there, is safely. They're not just going to release all the restraints and watch you fall and hope you don't injure yourself when you land. They're going to do it safely, so it does take time. So while I was there, I think they was trapped for 2 hours before they were brought down again, which I agree, when you're actually the one who's stuck, 2 hours is a very long time, but it could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. So there you go. There have also been some issues with brakes locking on and people getting whiplash style injuries, but that again is something that it was very quickly fixed and hasn't actually happened again since. So I would say lessons were learnt from that. Just quickly before I carry on talking about this, I'm going to explain to you what's happening on the screen right now. So this is me building the exit shop. Now this is the first time I've ever built an exit shop for an attraction, especially in Planet Coaster, but also in any roller coaster game. I've never built an exit store before, but that's exactly what I'm doing here. This is the taxi rank. Quite a clever name. I hope you'd agree with me with that one. It's where you get your on-ride photos. Now there are no on-ride photos available at this moment in time within the game. I'm hoping that's something that they will add in the future. They've already added security cameras, so I wonder if the next step is on-ride cameras. But instead of selling on-ride photos, we're actually just selling priority passes. So you could technically go there, buy a priority pass, and then go on the ride. It's up to you. Well, it's not up to you, it's up to the guest. If you were a guest, it would be up to you. You can see also I'm trying to add like a little souvenir thing there as well, like a hat store or a shirt store. Just something else to sort of fit the theming a little bit better. So it actually looks like a souvenir store as well. It's just where you buy your on-ride photos in inverted commas. Unfortunately, I couldn't fit one in. I didn't do a great job of actually designing the building. It was kind of an improvised sort of thing. But, you know, I'm okay with that. Overall, it looks quite nice. You see I cover up this. Here's me trying to fit the building in. And you can see it wasn't really working. At this point I was trying to squeeze in an ATM, which again wasn't really working. So I'll stick the ATM outside in the end, and then just put a wall that covers up that gap. And I do that a lot actually. I get these little gaps and just plug them in with the walls like that. I like the idea of having the smooth concrete with glass. I think that looks really nice. It's something that I employ here as well with the station building, which is going to be probably one of the tallest buildings in the ride structure, because it also contains one of the brake sections, which I think looks quite cool as well. Right, to go back to Indiana Jones quickly, because we're going to talk about backwards now. Something that's happened with the Swarm in recent years as well, although I believe the Swarm no longer has it. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril was probably one of the first rides in the world to incorporate the Let's Go Backwards ethos. So in the year 2000, Disneyland wanted something new and ambitious. They wanted something to market for the season, and they also wanted to revitalise the ride because its popularity had begun to wane slightly. So they decided to reverse the ride. Now it sounds quite easy, but actually it's not. For me, when I first heard that they'd made it go backwards, I thought, oh, they just turned the cars around. It's not quite as easy as that. First of all, you can't just turn the car around because there's things like the brake fins and the chain dogs. They're all in a set place and they're all slightly offset to the centre of the track. So if you move it to the other side, it will no longer link up with the chain, it will no longer connect with the brakes, and it could cause quite a lot of damage. So they actually did the smart thing, was they took the chassis off the body, turned the bodies round, and then reattached them to the chassis. So the chassis stays the same, and it has done since opening. It's the body that's been turned around. But even then, it's not exactly the same body, because they increased the total number of rows on each car from 2 to 3. So instead of 8 people per train, there's now 12. That in itself creates a whole problem, because there's an increase in weight, there's an increase in, or the centre of gravity shifts rather than an increase in anything. And I mean, that could go wrong. If you get the calculations wrong, the ride will just keep stalling. And we've already said that that's something that has plagued the ride in the past. Certainly not something that Disney would want to keep happening. Finally, or second to finally, penultimately, they had to change the theming of the ride. Again, if you're on a roller coaster, you don't see what's behind the theming. Most of the time it's just some wooden supports holding it up. If you're on the ride now and it's going backwards, all you're going to see is those wooden supports holding up the theming. Not particularly good to look at, let's say. So Disney had to turn all of the theming around as well. All of the scenery of the ride had to be reversed as well, so that you see it from the correct angle still. And then finally, because your body doesn't prepare for something if it doesn't see it happening. So Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril is notorious for having sharp drops, quick turns, things like that. If you don't see it coming, your body's not prepared for it. You could end up with whiplash and other sort of injuries related to sudden movements. Motion sickness as well was definitely going to be a problem. So they had to redesign the ride. Like, they had to reprofile the track. So it's now gone from, let's just turn the cars around, to, okay, we've had to move the body on the chassis. We've also increased the number of riders per train, so you've had to work on the train itself and make sure that the weight remains the same. Now it's turned into, actually we're going to have to do a lot of track work to make sure that this still functions properly. And that's what they had to do. It's the Disney way. They're not afraid to redesign rides from the ground up if necessary. They're not afraid to take risks. And it paid off, because the ride is still operating today. Although 4 years after they reversed the ride, they then reversed it once more, so the trains now run forwards again, which again would have meant having to move the cars on the bodies and also having to redo all the theming. I think the track actually stayed the same right up until 2014. And this is a new trend for Disney as well, where they close a ride and completely rebuild it from the ground up. And that's kind of what happened here. They didn't completely rebuild it, but they did a lot of track work, rebuilt a lot of the main structure. Again, there were rumours that the ride actually would have been altered slightly from the original design to make room for new attractions in the future. That didn't happen in the end. In the end, it was redesigned with the same footprint, but they did increase certain aspects of it, or they changed certain aspects. So they created a larger loop, which again, for me, sounds like a huge risk, because there's so much there that if it's not quite right, it will stall again, and you really don't want that reputation for constantly stalling, especially when you're a roller coaster like that, where it is all about sort of the rough ride is part of the ride. It's been designed that way. You don't want to have too many people complaining. Something else which is quite interesting, normally with theme park rides, if they have something that's built out of stone, again in inverted commas, normally it's fake stone. So it's either painted fiberglass or painted plastic, or in some cases painted plaster. When they rebuilt Temple of Peril, they actually rebuilt it using real stone, which is quite... The attention to detail, I've always said this about Disney, the attention to detail is staggering. They put so much investment into making their rides perfect from the start. And again, this is no different. This is a ride that's been around now for as long as I have, 24 years. The ride's been open this July 30th. and yet they're still investing in it. You know, just 3 years ago they rebuilt the whole structure. They're still got plans for it. They're still, you know, integrating it into the rest of the park. It's really, really, really good that they're still doing that. Again, it's one of the reasons why I love Disney so much, because they just always put this extra effort in that other parks don't. Other parks at this point would have just gotten rid of the ride, said it's too much of an investment to keep open, but not Disney. They really do like to set the benchmark. So, other little bits of trivia to do with this ride, and then I'll start talking about some other small roller coasters. So as I've said, it's the first ever Disney roller coaster to feature an inversion. The design itself is actually based on the first type of looping roller coaster built by Pininfarina. It's called their model is called the TL59. TL stands for the loop, and 59 is for the ride's 59-meter width. Nice and simple. The Inter-inversion copies the course but uses a different type of track, as you'd expect with Intamin. And I'm sure those of you who are screaming at me right now to mention this, it's not the only one of its kind in the world. Raging Spirits at Tokyo Disney Sea also has a very similar layout, a very similar design, and was also manufactured by Intamin, I believe. Let me check that actually. That would be really, really awkward if I got that wrong. Yeah, manufactured by Intamin. Raging Spirits, it's different theming. It's kind of it's based in the Lost River Delta section of Disney Sea. It's kind of got the same sort of idea as an Indiana Jones type adventure, but there's no actual mention of Indiana Jones in the ride itself. It's also built in a slightly different style of temple. It's an Inca building rather than the Indiana Jones one, which is, I can't remember now, Aztec I want to say. Let's see if it says anywhere on here. As usual, I am reading off a crib sheet that I've prepared. Sort of write down as many facts as possible. It doesn't seem to be written down on here. Oh well. Other small roller coasters that I like. Not that many that I've experienced first hand, to be honest. As I say, the type of roller coaster that Rattlesnake is at Chessington. And again, I just need to look up very quickly the model name. It is a Wild Mouse style. There it is. So Rattlesnake was built by Morrison, and again I'm butchering that pronunciation. The same company that built well, nowadays they tend to build like launch coasters. They built the Rip Ride Rocket at Universal Studios Florida. They have also built spinning, launched, racing and Wild Mouse coasters. That's a good way of summarising it. They're the ones that have pioneered Skyloop, the X-Car, the X-Train, the S-Coaster, which is the spinning coaster. I should explain this a little bit more actually. So S-Coaster is spinning coaster, that's what the S stands for. X, I believe, stands for Extreme. But they're the ones like the Skyloop and I want to say G-Force at Drayton Manor. Is that built by Morrison? Yes, G-Force. That's an X car. So I would say the X stands for Extreme. I would need to check that still. But they're good at designing small coasters that fit in small spaces. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Skyloop roller coasters because I think the reason I'm not a fan of them is not the designer's fault, but it's because theme parks have kind of started using them as a shortcut to a new roller coaster. They were designed for parks that don't have much space. It's like it's a good way of getting a decent thrill without having to invest huge amounts of money and huge amounts of space. Unfortunately, Parks like Busch Gardens Williamsburg have also jumped on the Sky Coaster bandwagon. Skyloop bandwagon, sorry, not Sky Coaster. And Tempesto is a good example of this. For me, it just feels lazy. Busch Gardens in recent years for me have gotten very, very lazy with their designs. Cheetah Hunt, even, I think is quite a lazy designed roller coaster. It's all spread out and there's no sort of interaction anywhere along that ride. It's got 2 launches right at the start, which I think was very unique and very novel. And even their dispatch system, the way they dispatch the trains, is very unique and very different. But once you get through that second launch, it becomes a very vanilla style ride. There's a couple of bunny hops here and there. There's the classic you have to squeeze an inversion into an Intamin coaster element, which is the Heartline roll. And then you go through the third launch, and then it's just up and over the sky rail, the chairlift sky ride, and then back to the station. There isn't that much excitement there for me. Tempesto's the same. It feels very lazily designed. We'll just stick a sky loop in this area. They've built a wooden roller coaster recently as well, which again just doesn't seem to... It doesn't speak to me at all. It doesn't seem like something I would really, really want to go on. But anyway, that's just me. Rattlesnake is one of the best examples of how to do a small roller coaster properly. It's very, very well themed. Huge kudos to Chessington for that. Very well designed. Even now, it's smoother than some of the newer rides by Gerstlauer that are incredibly uncomfortable. Rattlesnake and Dragon's Fury were both shut after the Smiler incident for safety checks to be carried out, and the fact that is that Rattlesnake's been around since the 80s. 1980... Sorry, I'm on the wrong screen. 1980... Oh no, 1998. I'm sure I read 1980 something earlier. 1998 Rattlesnake opened. So again, it's a very old ride. It still stands the test of time. That just about does it for this episode, guys. You can see I'm just halfway through the theming of Cra-Zee Taxi. We will continue next episode. The start of next episode will be another time lapse of me building more around Cra-Zee Taxi, and I'll do a little bit more of explaining exactly what I'm doing with the theming as well, because I haven't done that this time. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you enjoyed the series. Drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support, and until next time, I'll see you soon.